And now to Ed Pence from Crossref, who will update us on ORCID.
Thank you very much. So yes, I'm going to give an update on ORCID. Laurie Hawk, the executive director of ORCID, spoke at the UKSG meeting last year in Bournemouth when there were about 100,000 registrations of ORCID IDs. There's been a lot of progress in the last year, so I'm going to give a quick update. First of all, a question that's usually asked when people are talking about ORCID is if you could raise your hand if you have an ORCID ID. That's pretty good. If you don't, and you can get on the Wi-Fi, go and claim your ID. It takes about 30 seconds. Well, it should take about 30 seconds if you could get connected. The other thing to stress the network, this will be fun, is if you haven't looked at orcidlive.org, it's a great site where it shows a map of the world, and it just pings up in real time as people around the world get ORCID IDs, and it's really great to watch, and just seeing from all over the world, and they must be doing it in the middle of the night in some cases. But so ORCID, the ORCID ID, the ORCID registry system, it's a critical part of the scholarly communications infrastructure, and I would say, probably the most important thing to happen since Crossref. It's of course not more important than Crossref, but probably equally as important as Crossref. So it addresses the issue of name ambiguity. There's data, if you look at databases, there's lots of overlap and name clashes, and so there's name ambiguity, and it happens for people changing their names, or people who just have a common name, so there's overlap, names get transliterated, all sorts of reasons. There's name ambiguity, and that's why ORCID was created and set up to address that problem. So ORCID really got going in 2010. The registry launched at the end of 2012, but it's really started to accelerate over the last year in the developments. But ORCID provides a free, open registry of persistent unique identifiers for researchers, very broadly defined. It's a self-claim system, so anybody can go in and claim an ORCID ID. And what's starting to happen now is that the ORCID IDs are being embedded into research systems, university systems, publisher systems, and this is really starting to enable interoperable exchange of information between these systems. It's really only just starting to get there because there needs to be a critical mass of ORCID IDs and data associated with ORCIDs. And it's been, in some ways it seems it's been slow getting there. I mean, I've been involved with ORCID since the start, but really when we think where we've gotten today in the last couple of years, we're now getting to the point, a tipping point, I think, where it's going to really start to accelerate more because there was a chicken and egg problem that a lot of organizations, didn't see the value in integrating their systems because there weren't many ORCIDs around. But now I think that started to change. And very importantly, ORCID has been set up as a charity. It's run by universities, funders, publishers, but it's got principles of openness. The source code is open, and the ORCID board has to be a majority nonprofit organizations. That's written into the bylaws. So ORCID is also on a path to sustainability. There are over 100 paying members at the moment, and by the end of next year, it should be sustainable. So that's still a challenge, getting to that point, but the plan is working so far. But just to give you a breakdown of those members, 120, 130 now, this is a breakdown of the types of organizations, so we can see this multi-stakeholder aspect of it, that we've got universities and research organizations, publishers, and associations, and funders coming in as the smallest piece of the pie. But of course, there are probably fewer numbers of funders in total numbers, but obviously it's very important having them involved in the system. But I expect the university membership to really start accelerating as well. So these are the assignment of ORCID IDs. We're over 650,000. And you can see that the growth rate is accelerating. It's a self-claim system, but the different colors in the chart here show the different ways the ORCID IDs are created. So we have the light blue at the bottom, the trusted party. What this means largely so far, this has been publishers have integrated this into their manuscript tracking system. So when an author comes and submits a manuscript, the publishers encourage them to get an ORCID ID. Hindawi Publishing was an early leader in getting publishers to sign up, but Nature's done some integration, PLOS, other organizations. So that's why that bottom bit has really increased a lot. The dark blue is the website, so that's just researchers, others coming to the ORCID website and quickly registering for their IDs. And then the newest thing is the creator, which is the orange at the top, and that is due to university integration. So universities signing IDs for their faculty and students as well. And so we're now starting to see, that's taken longer, but that's starting to grow as well. So I think that's really critical for the success of ORCID going forward. Okay. So, funders, I think funders see value in the system. When funders start to mandate it, that's going to lead to increase or even just strongly encourage it. It's going to lead to increased uptake. That started to happen recently. In the case of Portugal, where the government agency in Portugal said all researchers in Portugal need to get an ORCID ID, and there were 30,000 of them. In the next couple of weeks, 30,000 signed up and got ORCID IDs. So that's going to start happening around the world. Wellcome Trust is involved, NIH, NSF, and the EU Horizon 2020 funding is also involved. So this is some of the universities that are integrating at the moment with ORCID, and they want to make it easier for their researchers, and that's the key driver to reuse information as much as possible. So these are the practical things that can be done. ORCIDs can go throughout the universities, CRIS systems, LDAP, directories, those types of things. And most importantly, there's some funding that's been put forward. The Sloan Foundation in the US, and most recently JISC and ARMA are launching some pilot projects within the UK. So this will enable universities to actually do the integration with ORCID. These are the organizations in the US who are involved, and there's also a lot of repository integrations going on. So sometimes it's hard to keep track of this, but the next ORCID outreach meeting is in Chicago, so I invite everybody to come and attend that, but ORCID also live streams its events and puts the presentations up online if you're not able to make it. So that's a very quick overview, and there's lots more information on the ORCID website, but really we're going to see over the next year a huge amount of development in ORCID and the ORCID registry, so it's very exciting to see that happening. And so I realize that I'm finishing the day today. We're going to have some questions, but also just to put in a plug that I'm finishing today, but I'm also starting tomorrow and chairing the plenary at 9 a.m. So take it easy at the dinner tonight, because I want to see everybody here on time, because it's a great session on discovery. Thank you very much.